craziest acceleration of my life. Like being on a roller coaster, hair blowing in the wind, the car on the verge of coming off the rails. I'm writing from this remote setting where I've landed, and from which I perceive the world as a slightly blurry film that for a long time has been shot without me. The house became the witness to my life without Claude, a carcass I had to learn to live in, whose partitions I knocked down with great blows of a sledgehammer at the height of my anger. It was a slightly rickety house, and the lot, which we'd hoped to turn into a yard, needed clearing. I felt like I wasn't so much renovating as smashing, ransacking, declaring war on anything that resisted me: plaster, stone, wood, materials I could make martyrs of without anyone throwing me in jail. It was my little revenge against destiny, kicking in the sheet metal of a swinging door, shearing through a filthy burlap cloth, smashing windows as I screamed. All the while trying to conserve a cocoon in the midst of the chaos so our son could sleep in safety. A brightly colored little burrow with down comforters and pillows, drawings hanging above the bed, and a thick carpet, a rampart against fear and all the ghosts in the night. As the years went by, I came to tame this house that I'd initially disliked. At first, I lived there as a sleepwalker, mixing up my mornings and evenings until finally I stopped banging into the walls and started repainting them. No more massacring partitions and drop ceilings, no more considering every square foot an enemy power. I calmed my fury and decided to disguise myself as a respectable person. I had to return to the land of the living. I'd shoot daggers at anyone who said I was a widow. Overwhelmed with grief, yes, but not a widow. But I still had to grapple with the weeds invading the garden. For months, I pulled them out compulsively, in repetitive and disturbing movements, learning their names: couchgrass, stinging nettle, purslane, and setting them alight in secret bonfires under the cover of night. Lighting fires wasn't allowed because of the fine particles. I got rid of invasive plants like ragweed and ivy that crawled in the shadows, and tracking down these undesirables allowed me to clear my mind at the same time as I cleared the plot. Little by little, I began to reside on the premises in the most bourgeois of ways, as required by one of the clauses in the insurance contract I'd taken out to protect us in case of fire, water damage, or burglary. One misfortune never prevents another, according to Murphy's famous law, which hadn't escaped my notice. I became less enraged and managed to draw up the plans for both floors just as Claude and I had imagined. I knew exactly what he'd have wanted, which materials he'd been considering, as I browsed the pages we'd dog-eared in the Le Père catalogue. Little by little, I recovered my bearings. I met craftsmen who could come pour a slab, change a beam, or tile a damaged floor, who'd redo the bathroom or install central heating. Maybe one day I'd even feel like taking a bath again. From time to time, I've taken pleasure in choosing a color, matching paint with the wood of a door. I found beauty in the way low-angled light entered the kitchen just before dinner. But I didn't understand who the light was for. I preferred rainy days, which at least didn't try to distract me from my sadness. I decided that the house would be what connected me to Claude, what would give a framework to this new life that our son and I hadn't chosen. He was still our son, but I'd have to learn to say my son, just as I'd have to give up the we that had supported me and learn to say I, even though this I would flay me by expressing an unwanted solitude and a twisted truth. I kept the idea of building the little recording studio Claude had wanted for so long, a soundproof room where he'd hoped to be able to work in isolation. It would have contained all the instruments he owned, a bass, a guitar, and the synthesizer he'd just bought, a sequential circuit 6-track. I'm being precise because it's important in what follows, whose keys he tapped away on while wearing headphones. I was making slow but steady progress, though it would take me almost 20 years to be done with all the rooms, all the surfaces. It was only last year that I changed the windows. I've just repainted the shutters. If only I'd known I was going to all this trouble just for a developer to raze it all to the ground. I never did get the facade restored. It's still in its slightly dirty, original state. It was too expensive. As for the wooden deck we'd planned, I never had it installed. I guess that was the right call. But none of that mattered. There was only one thing I was truly obsessed with, and I'd kept it secret so as not to frighten those around me. I didn't talk about it, or rather I'd stopped talking about it,